The old grandfather clock in the hall had always been a comforting presence, its steady tick a familiar heartbeat in the quiet house. But lately, the rhythm had changed. It had become erratic, a frantic pulse that quickened and slowed for no discernible reason. Tonight, the ticking was almost silent, a faint whisper that barely registered above the rustling leaves outside. Sarah lay in bed, unable to shake off a growing unease. The house felt different, heavier, as if something unseen was holding its breath. Suddenly, the clock chimed. Not the usual mellow bong, but a sharp, discordant clang that echoed through the silent house. Sarah sat bolt upright, her heart hammering against her ribs. It was 3 in the morning. The clock hadn't chimed at 3 in years. She strained her ears, listening for any other sound. Silence. A thick, suffocating silence that pressed against her eardrums. Slowly, hesitantly, she slipped out of bed. The floorboards creaked beneath her bare feet, each sound amplified in the stillness. She reached the hallway and peered into the gloom. The grandfather clock stood like a dark sentinel at the end of the passage. As she watched, a sliver of light seemed to emanate from within its wooden casing. It grew brighter, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. Curiosity overriding her fear, Sarah crept closer. The glass door of the clock was slightly ajar. Through the narrow opening, she saw not the familiar pendulum swinging back and forth, but something else, something pale and elongated, shifting in the dim light. A low, wet sound reached her ears, like something being dragged across wood. The light intensified, and Sarah could now make out a shape within the clock, a hunched figure, its back to her. Then it turned. The face that emerged from the shadows was devoid of features, a smooth, white mask with two dark, empty sockets. A thin crimson line snaked across its surface, widening into a grotesque smile. A raspy whisper, like dry leaves skittering across pavement, filled the air. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Time runs out. Sarah stumbled backward, a scream caught in her throat. The figure within the clock began to move, its pale, thin limbs unfolding, reaching. The light pulsed, the ticking resumed, a frantic, desperate beat. She turned and fled. The image of the featureless face burned into her mind, the chilling whisper echoing in her ears. She didn't stop running until she burst out into the cool night air, the familiar sounds of the sleeping town a fragile comfort. But even then, she could still hear it, the faint, erratic ticking, a constant reminder that time indeed had run out for something within the old house.